G'day there, Ray Corcoran here. So in this week's video, we're going to be talking about how to make the recession your bitch. I don't know about you, but I definitely plan on coming out of a recession, if there is one, in Australia anyways. I plan on coming out of it with a better business, a more structured business, processes more documented, more cash than ever before, more customers than ever before, better results. There's going to be maybe potentially a bigger team. I want to come out of that situation better than I went in. And I hate it when, I've consulted hundreds of businesses over the years, and I've dealt with some people that just curl up in a ball and die. And it's not to say that we're going to ignore the macro factors in the economy, but at the same time, having a positive attitude and a proactive approach will mean that you make the most out of a bad situation, and you don't just be someone that whinges online or gives up and doesn't try because there's some macro factor. This is a really good opportunity for you to demonstrate how much of a good business owner you are, or how good you are at managing your personal finances. So in this video, I'm going to talk about more business owner side focus, and I'm going to talk about how I'm personally approaching it, and what tips I can give you to approach this successfully. And if you find it useful, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe, you should definitely do that. So the first one is working extra now. So you want to do more marketing now, more effort now. Whether the recession comes or not is not really any of our business. It'll happen. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But either way, if there are murmurs of stuff happening in the economy that could be, that could indicate that we're going through a slower time of economic growth, maybe end of this year or early next year or late next year or whenever it is, we need to make sure that we make the most of any kind of leftover good times. So if, we could be months away, we could be a year away before things change. So if that's the case, I want to work right up until it starts and make the most and squeeze the most juice out of that situation. So right now, I'm working more than I need to, so that if things do get worse, I'm not worried. It's not going to affect me whatsoever. It may, things may happen, or bad things may happen, who knows? But I know that if I make the most out of the lead up, then I'm going to be in a really strong position if and when a recession starts, and then I might have to ride it out for whatever period, and then I can come out of it guns blazing after it. So with yourself and your team, make sure that you are, going 110% right now, because the more that you put in now, the easier it's going to be for you later. The second thing is checking your numbers more often. So whether it's marketing numbers, whether it's just your accounting numbers, have a look at all those key metrics. Look at them a bit more often. That way you'll be able to spot instantly and ideally early any kind of problems that may pop up. If sales start to decline in your industry, if you're not checking the numbers as often, or maybe you've got into a habit in the past of not checking very often, then you're going to find yourself realizing too late and making corrective action too late, and you're going to end up like the Titanic, millions of leagues below the sea. So whether it's like a weekly check-in with your numbers, or maybe a couple of times a week, or maybe fortnightly at latest, in my opinion, check all your finances. Look at cash flow, look at your profit and loss, look at how many new inquiries you've had, how many new customers you've had, how much are they spending, is the average amount they're spending going up or down, are certain products getting less popular, are others getting more popular? Look at all these key metrics. And speak to your accountant. Let them know that you are more interested in these particular numbers right now, and if there's anything that they can do to support you, whether it's extra reporting for you, or even just giving you some guidance around what numbers they would look at as well. The next is to build a big cash buffer. So obviously, in our personal finances, we like to keep at least 3 to 6 months, and ideally more if you expect more risk or problems in the future. And the same is pretty much for your business. For me personally, everyone's different. But it also depends on your cost base. Some businesses, my business is relatively low cost and low expenses, whereas other industries, you've got a big monthly outgoing of 80 grand a month, or 20 grand a month, or 100 grand, whatever it is. And you need to have literally a few months worth of expenses in the bank. And some people say, well, that's like 300 grand, or that could be 500 grand. And if that's the size of your expenses, then yeah, you should be doing that. Now, a lot of people don't want to do that. They feel like that's crazy. But for me, what's crazy is not having that much money in the bank and realizing that you're only 2 or 3 months away from running out of cash. So keep that in mind, have a bigger buffer. Look at how much money is in your company account right now, work out how many months, work out your monthly expenses, of course, and then is that going to cover 3 months of expenses or 6 months? Personally, I would want to keep, at least 3 to 6 And if you think that your industry in particular is going to be really affected, maybe 9 or 12 months if you can save it up. And if you can only save up 9 in the next few months or whatever, great. That's still better than not having anything or living month to month. Because a lot of businesses in 2020, I saw this play out many times. I was so happy that I had a good buffer in place, and I saw many businesses who have been riding it too close to the sun for a while now, and they got wrecked. So you got to keep that in mind. You never need the buffer until you need it. The next thing I would do is list your risks. So identify what are going to be, like you do with a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Look at what the risks are to you in the future. Is there anything in particular that for your industry or your particular business that's going to really stuff you up? If you know that, if that person quits, I'm screwed. Or if this customer cancels their contract with us, then we're screwed because they spend heaps of money. You need to identify what are the top, 3 to 5 biggest risks to your business right now. If the border's shut, does that cripple your business instantly? You need to look at what are the biggest things that could topple your business, and then for each one, make a mini game plan about how I'm going to mitigate that. So if you're really reliant on one big customer, I would identify how can I get maybe 2 or 3 other medium customers, or maybe 5 small customers to compensate for that person going, and diversify my client base. Or if it's, if borders to a certain country mean that you can't make money in that country anymore, then you need to look at, well, is there other countries that I could go to, or what am I going to do about that? Am I going to do domestic stuff instead? You need to have a think about that. And just think in advance, do kind of scenario planning. If your sales halved 6 months from now, what does that mean for your business? Would that mean you're screwed? Would it mean that you're not screwed, but you're living very thin and you've barely got any cash flow? Would that mean you need to fire people? Start to think about, we want to kind of hope for the best, but plan for the worst. The next tip is reducing debt. So if you have, a lot of people have like a rolling tax bill. I've had a lot of chats with different clients about this lately. If you do have a rolling tax bill where you're making, you're on a payment plan with the Australian Tax Office, or wherever, whatever country you're in, it's important to keep that in mind. If you have, because the thing about having a payment plan, which I don't like, is you have a payment plan for debt from, tax debt from a previous period, but you're not only just paying that, you're paying the previous period's tax now, spread out, but you're also paying the current period's tax that are gonna keep rolling in as well. And that can, compound interest goes both ways. That can start to really snowball if you don't eventually start reducing that debt, or your sales don't increase at a faster rate. Profit as well. Keep that in mind. If you do have debts, I would really strongly encourage that you start reducing those over time, because that's just going to be less money that you have available at your disposal during potentially tough times. It may not actually get that bad, but it's always prudent to keep those debts either at 0 or as low as possible. Following on from that, we want to dial down the noise. So reduce the social media usage, don't watch the news, any of that kind of stuff. Don't speak to even negative people. We want to reduce any of that negative energy, I guess, because any of that stuff can really throw you off your game and throw you off doing real practical things to improve your situation. Ultimately, discussing it with the person at the pub about how everything's screwed and everything's really hard is, one, going to reinforce that you can do nothing about it, which is not true and ridiculous, but also you're not spending energy, you're putting energy into complaining and worrying when you should be putting energy into what would fix it, is being solution focused, which is doing things like more marketing, training your staff, checking your numbers. You always want to be solution focused and doing proactive things that will help us, rather than just dwelling on it. You can't change it. Being upset about being fat is not going to change it. Going to the gym once will be way more than worrying about it for 10,000 hours. What we also want to do now is go back to basics with the business. So a lot of people, when times are good, they start doing all these random initiatives that, the business is going fine. They start getting distracted by side quests and all sorts of random stuff. We want to go back to basics. We want to get back to really good customer service, simple financial management of the company by checking our numbers regularly, addressing any issues that pop up. And we want to make sure that we're doing like the basics of marketing. Say for me, I have recently, overhauled how I market my own business, and I've been focusing on what are the deliverables that I need to do to create a high volume of inquiries, and what would that look like? And it might mean this many posts on LinkedIn, this many reviews coming in, this many posts on social, on Facebook and Insta, This kind of email is going out to the database. I need to speak at this many events. I need to do other stuff around SEO. So there's certain things that I know I need to do, and I am dialing those things up. Even though I don't really need that many customers, I do want to have more customers than I need during these times. And so the team has capacity. So I want to make sure that we keep them, at capacity during these times and utilize them to their fullest potential. And focus could be going, above and beyond for your customers. This is not a time to slack, and it is a time to continuously deliver and provide whatever results or outcomes that your customers want. We want to double down on that. You can't afford to be losing customers during this time or in the lead up to a time like this if it does play out that way. Give, 110% customer service, deliver more than anyone else could in your market for your customer, because it's going to pay off big dividends, and it's a good business to do it anyway, but especially important if we do go into recession. Another important tip is I'd recommend, aside from just doing the usual forecasting and budgets and that sort of stuff, which, for me, I don't find it very exciting, to be honest. At a minimum, I would recommend that you start to map out your lumpy expenses. So most businesses, they have a combination of really big lumpy expenses and then little expenses like, $50 here, $50 there. So what I like to do is I like to map out, when's my tax due? It's going to be, every 3 months I've got to pay my quarterly tax. And I know that if my business does a certain amount of revenue, I know the tax bill is going to be between here and here roughly. And obviously if I make more, it's going to be higher. If I make less, it's going to be lower. But I know, give or take, that I can be expected to have to pay this much every 3 months or so. So I literally, in bullet points, just write down, every month, and I write, okay, what are the big expenses? So say, for example, I have some software that I use for my business. I've got a few different subscriptions. I've actually got a million different subscriptions, to be honest. But some of them are more expensive than others. Some of them are about $3,000 a year, others are $1,500, others are $2,000, but that can add up. And obviously if you, depending on your cash flow, you wanna make sure that you know which months they're coming out. So I literally map out what months those expenses are coming through, when my taxes are coming through, is there any other things I need to pay, staffing costs. So map out those lumpy expenses, and it will help you know whether you have, in August, you might have some big expense on the horizon. And then in July, potentially, you might want to tighten your belt. Then ensure the cash is in the account so that when that bill comes, it's not like that bill was always going to come. So I want to make sure that we just have that visibility. It's like a car with the headlights. We want to kind of see 20, 50, 100 meters in front of us so that we can make the right decisions in the lead up, so we don't get caught out by any lumpy expenses that, let's be honest, you should already know about them. These aren't unexpected stuff. And as I said in one of my last videos, there was a great quote from Ayrton Senna, who was a Formula One driver. He said, you cannot overtake 15 cars in sunny weather, but you can when it's raining. This is really, really timely and topical right now, because if there is going to be a period of economic downturn, then it is a great opportunity for you to leapfrog your competitors. Some people don't manage these situations as well as others. So by doing the tips in this video, and obviously just generally focusing on your own little world and not worrying about the noise outside, you can move forward much faster than everybody else. And you can use this downturn to be actually one of your best growth periods ever. So hope you found this video useful. Please give a like if you enjoyed it. And if you have any thoughts below or any tips of your own, I would love to hear it in the comments. Thanks.